The first KU football injury report is out as they are getting ready for the West Virginia game. We found out some injury news, some actually really good news for KU, including some guys we're going to touch on: Bryson Canty, Joseph Sipp, Gage Keys, and more. So find out all about that news here on Locked On Jayhawks.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Derek Johnson here. This is Locked On Jayhawks. Thanks for making it your first listen every day. Thank you to everydayers catching each and every episode of the show. We are free and available anywhere you get your podcast, including on our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe to the show. And on this bonus episode of Locked On Jayhawks, we have our first ever Kansas football injury report. They're doing these for the Big 12 games, and now we have an idea of who's probable, who's questionable, all these sort of things for the KU West Virginia game. So we wanted to break that down, and certainly seems like some good injury news for once for KU football to start this season. I want to start with a guy, Bryson Canty, because Bryson Canty is somebody that I felt like can be an added boost, a game changer for this KU offense. And in fact, this initial injury report, you have players out: Dylan Brooks, Jameer Moore, Jack Schneider, David Abajian, Jason Strickland, Conley Hovey, questionable Cole Mondi, and the probables are Joseph Sipp Jr., Dak Brinkley, Daniel Highshaw, Logan Brantley, Darian Jones, Taylor Davis, and Jaden Nickens. We're going to break all of those down throughout the show today, but you'll notice Bryson Canty is not on there. And the fact that he's not even at least in probable, I know he's been playing, but usually if you're playing, but you're playing through an injury, you wind up on the probable list. The fact that he's not even on there tells me that, okay, finally he is now fully healthy. He was hurt in fall camp. He wasn't around for spring ball because he joined late. He wanted to get his degree from Columbia. Don't blame him, from an Ivy League school. And so then you get an injury in fall camp, and that puts you behind the eight ball. And he's been kind of playing very limited snaps in the first couple games. Now you have the bye week to get reacclimated, and now you're fully healthy. And the reason I think this is such a big deal, first of all, I mean, we know Cam Pickett's been playing through some injury stuff. I guess the fact that he's not on probable either is good news for how he's trending in the right direction. But we've yet to see all three of those really impact things at the same time, with Henderson, Pickett, and Canty, and they can all do different things. Henderson is your burner. Pickett is very good with the ball in his hands and maybe those shorter routes. And Canty is kind of your, I guess, intermediate player who can also get some deep ball work. And when you look at what Canty excels at, like what he did a lot at Columbia, he was really good on deep balls. He caught 9 passes of 20 yards or more, and he also caught 16 passes between 10 to 20 yards. So in total, 25 passes were caught by Bryson Canty a season ago at Columbia of the, oh gosh, how many did he have for the season? But you know, you're talking about somebody who, I mean, that's a lot of catches for 10 plus yards down the field. And as much as Jalen Daniels and with Jim Zabrowski and stuff, and they have improved on that this season with the offense, that is still an area where they can get even better. And adding yet another threat to possibly add to that, somebody in Canty who at Columbia had 43 catches for 760 yards and 9 touchdowns last year, was a 2-time All-Ivy League player, was All-Ivy League first team a season ago. And keep in mind, that's in like 10 games. He had over 1,700 career receiving yards right now throughout his collegiate careers with Columbia and Kansas. This is an impactful player that if you do add and you do want to read into, okay, no Cam Pickett as an injury designation too, could this be the best version of the KU receiving core that we see all season long? And it comes at a perfect time before you play West Virginia, because guess what? West Virginia's got a really good run defense. I mean, they have a good overall defense, but if you're not able to run the ball similar to like you were in Missouri, you're going to need all the passing help that you can get. And certainly you have that with Bryson Canty not on this list. I think the other big name that's on this list, but in the positive light, is Joseph Sipp. Somebody else who's not on the list, which is good news, is Gage Keys. I want to break all those players down, as well as some of the West Virginia injuries. This is Locked On Jayhawks. And today's episode of LOJ is brought to you by Mazda. You can just move through life, or you can find the things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. You can choose to go for it, like really go for it. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Let's look back and crown this week's MVP on who delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. You know, Normally I'd tell you about, Deshaun Hanukkah had this big game against Missouri, or Jalen Daniels did this or that. KU was on a bye week, and as we've gone over the injury report today, looks pretty good for KU. So we're going to give, for the Jayhawks this week, I think the team training room, the team trainers delivered in a big way this week, because the fact that the injury report looks as good as it does right now, credit to the trainers, man. I mean, Bengali Kamara, who's playing through injury, he's not even listed on there. So that seems to be good news. And just like I guess the team trainers delivered for the Jayhawks during the bye week, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. Save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Thanks for joining us on this bonus episode of Locked On Jayhawks. Injury report out for KU football. All right, so we mentioned the receiver room because to me that is so important coming to this. But as much as the names on here are important, it's the names that aren't on here, right? The guys who are playing through injury. And like we said, with Bengali Kamara, with Cam Pickett, that is great news. Now, I guess there is a world where they don't want to be fully like – from Lance Leipold's perspective, like he's viewing probable as players who haven't played or haven't been playing because of injury, but are now. But I guess that doesn't make sense with Daniel Hishaw, right? I mean, and maybe that's a little concerning as KU tries to get their running game together. Is it a little concerning that Hishaw is probable and has some sort of injury that he is dealing with? But the fact that Hishaw's been playing and is now listed probable does at least tell me the idea that, okay, if Bengali, like, doesn't that tell you Bengali Kamara is feeling a lot better if he's not even listed as probable, if he's just off this list? It certainly does to me. And obviously that's great news with Gage Keys. We haven't seen him yet this season. He adds another bit of juice and pass rush to what's already a good defensive tackle room for KU football. So that's a big deal that he's not on this list, and sounds like he'll be making his debut this week against West Virginia. But that's huge that Joseph Sipp Jr. is listed as probable. I mean, there was in the offseason, it was like, who's going to start, Sipp or Trey Lathan? And with how good Trey Lathan has been, what does that mean KU is going to have with Joseph Sipp? Does that mean KU is going to have like three really, really good linebackers here with Bengali Kamara, Joseph Sipp, and Trey Lathan? Just having Sipp back allow Kamara and Lathan to be even better because they can be more rested for, 5-10 snaps throughout the course of a game, or maybe it's more than that. I don't know. But that is huge news, again, against a team who's going to test linebackers with running sideline to sideline and using the quarterback run, using the running back run and everything. So that's a big boost for KU to get his debut for this game for Kansas. Dak Brinkley, obviously very talented youngster. He's flashed a few times early in the season, so that's nice that he's probable. Like I mentioned with Hishaw, didn't know he was dealing with something, so maybe that explains some of the running issues KU had last game out against Missouri, but also a little worrisome there. I would say with Taylor Davis, didn't know he had something too, but that's something where, obviously he's going to be playing a lot of snaps, so you hope that that's not something that bothers him. And then with Jaden Nickens, the fact that he's listed as probable, I think that's a good sign because he hasn't been playing so far this season. So sounds like he's getting over whatever injury that he had, although I don't know how much. I guess that just goes back in line with like the receiver core kind of getting healthy here for KU. As far as the guys who are out, like those are guys who, like Brooks has been out for a while here, and a lot of those other guys are deep down on the depth chart. Cole Monty's a former walk-on who actually played really well in the first couple of weeks of the season when he got in there. But, there's nobody who is projected to be on the KU 2-deep who's listed on the questionable or out. And all the guys, for the most part, I mean, in the case of like Sipp and I guess Nickens on the probable, and then some guys that aren't listed that we mentioned, like Gage Keys and Bengali Kamara, the fact that they're not listed, this seems to be great news for KU. Now, I guess there will be another injury report coming later this week. Like I think it's 90 minutes before game time or something. So we'll see, what happens. And obviously there can still be injuries in practice, like what happened with Bengali Kamara leading into the Wagner game. But yeah, great news for KU getting ready for the Big 12 opener. That bye week coming at a huge time for KU to get ready for the Mountaineers. Now, what about the Mountaineers? For them, their outs are Jaheim White, Jaden, Bray. We knew those. They're out for the season. Cannon Katzer, Julian Horton, Cooper Young. Their doubtfuls are Xavier Bosley and Jacob Barrick. And then the questionables, Preston Fox, Chase Wilson, Marshawn Oxley. The probables, Ty Edwards and Derek Carter Jr. Let's break that down. Are there any players that becomes notable that they are on the injury list for West Virginia? That next. Today's episode of Locked On Jayhawks, bonus episode, is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch's built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is just for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. And they've got it color coded, they've got graphs, like whatever way you find it easy to read data and sort that sort of stuff. Like Monarch Money is made sure that you're going to have it. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Thank you for joining us on this bonus episode of Locked On Jayhawks, breaking down the injury report for KU West Virginia coming into the game. So we mentioned for West Virginia, Jaheim White and Jaden Bray, they are out for this one, but those are both players that are out for the season. That was like after their second game of the year for them. As far as other players of note, on the offensive side of the ball, I don't know that I don't think Cooper Young has logged any snaps this year. Cannon Katzer, he hasn't either. So, those are guys who, I don't know, maybe they were expected. Again, I don't know everybody on the 2 and the 3 deep for West Virginia. I just know, these guys have not logged snaps. Same with Xavier Bosley. And then you look at Barrick. He is somebody who has logged 67 snaps so far this season, has played in all 3 games. So you're looking at more of like kind of a backup tight end. So the fact that he's doubtful, maybe that hurts him a little bit there. He has a 72 run block grade on Pro Football Focus. So, that doesn't help West Virginia, but it's not the biggest loss in the world either. And then you look at the questionables, and obviously those can go, a bunch of ways. But Preston Fox, 51 snaps in 3 games. He's questionable, but certainly with Jaden Bray out, like you don't want to be missing more receivers. But again, wouldn't be necessarily a gigantic miss there. The Ty Edwards one being probable is at least a little bit interesting because, again, I don't know if he was dealing with an injury before. I mean, those were his first rushing stats last week against Pitt, so maybe he was, and maybe that's why he wasn't playing as much. And then he goes off for like 140 yards against Pittsburgh. But if he is in the same way that Daniel Highshaw is a little banged up, like how does that affect, the running game either way? I'm not going to expect it to have a huge impact on him. Again, because it seemed like he was just fine against Pitt and had a huge game, but it will be something certainly to monitor. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball for West Virginia, like Julian Horton is somebody who he's only played 3 snaps this year. So that doesn't seem to be one. And again, it might've been, for all I know, he was a starter and then he got hurt after 3 snaps. The big one is going to be Chase Wilson to kind of watch over here. Again, he's in questionable, so he could end up playing, but he's played 2 games, 96 snaps through the 2 games. So that's a starters level snap load when he is playing essentially in a 72 PFF grade, 74 in run defense, 70 in pass rush, and a 71 tackling grade. So Chase Wilson's been, a solid linebacker for them when he's in. And then Marshawn Oxley, another linebacker, he's kind of like an outside linebacker, I'm pretty sure, but 33 snaps. Kind of more limited there, but that one becomes a little bit interesting too. But so I would definitely say the one that is most interesting on there has to be probably Chase Wilson. But outside of that, it's kind of the season-long injuries. But I think overall for both teams, I mean, obviously the season-long injuries are bad for West Virginia, but we already knew that before this week was going to begin. They knew it before last week against Pittsburgh. So from that perspective, seems like a pretty clean injury report for the most part for both teams, which is what you want to see. You want to see the best players on the field as much as possible coming into a game week, and excited about some of the players KU is going to be getting back, some of the players that seem to be more healthy now off the bye week for KU, and that can only be good news for the Jayhawks. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Locked On Jayhawks. You can find our show anywhere you get your podcast, including on our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe to the show. See you next time with LOJ.